So, imagine you've got two people, right? And they both win, say, $10 million in the lottery on the exact same day.
Oh, the classic windfall scenario.
Exactly. So 5 years later, you check in on them. One of them is completely bankrupt, just buried in debt. But the other one has somehow turned that 10 million into 20 million.
Yeah, which happens a lot more often than people think.
Right. And the math is identical for both of them. The economic conditions they faced were the same. The windfall was exactly the same. So what is the actual difference between those two outcomes?
It's all about the software, really.
Yes, the invisible architecture operating inside their minds. Welcome to another deep dive. Today, we are decoding that exact invisible architecture.
And we're really looking at this concept that's often summed up by the popular phrase, money talks, but wealth whispers.
I love that phrase. But we aren't looking at this through the lens of, like, fashion, right?
No, not at all.
Like the billionaire in the plain gray t-shirt versus the guy on Instagram covered in loud designer logos.
Right, the sources we're unpacking today, they look at that phrase as a description of an internal operating system. The whisper is really the quiet, foundational mindset of abundance and wealth consciousness.
Now, before we go any further into the mechanics of wealth creation, I need to issue a very quick ironclad disclaimer.
Oh, with a good idea.
We are diving deep into behavioral psychology, mindset, and the philosophy of abundance today. Absolutely nothing we discuss here is financial, legal, or investment advice.
Exactly. Mindset, not market moves.
Please do not go, liquidate your retirement account or make wild stock market bets just because we are exploring the architecture of success. We are analyzing the software of the mind today, not the contents of a brokerage account.
That is a critical boundary to set, honestly, because the source material is entirely focused on the cognitive and behavioral frameworks that have to precede any actual financial strategy.
And speaking of those frameworks, this is where my own skepticism immediately flares up when I review these kinds of sources.
Oh, so?
Well, when we start throwing around terms like wealth, consciousness, or attracting abundance, it kind of triggers my self-help alarm.
I can totally see that. It sounds a bit woo-woo.
Yeah, it sounds like internet manifesting. You know the pitch, right? Just close your eyes, think really hard about a sports car, and the universe will magically drop the keys in your lap.
Right, the whole just believe and it appears thing.
Exactly. So I need to know, is there actual practical mechanics behind this, or are we just dealing with heavily marketed wishful thinking today?
Well, the good news is the science actually backs up your skepticism regarding that pure manifesting stuff.
Okay, good. That's a relief.
Yeah, the text is very clear that knowledge or even, intense visualization without action is just dormant potential. The mindset isn't some magic wand you wave.
So what is it then?
It's an alignment tool. The sources break this alignment down into a very sequential process. First, you rewrite the foundational subconscious operating system. Then, you install a systemic framework of behavioral discipline. And finally, you create a feedback loop of continuous adaptation.
I see.
But if you bypass that execution phase, the mindset stuff is utterly useless.
Let's theorize about that first step for a second, rewriting the operating system. Because the text argues that the foundation of wealth consciousness begins with total ownership.
Right, taking full responsibility.
Yeah, it specifically states that blame is the language of failure, while responsibility is the language of success. And my hypothesis here is that blame isn't just a bad habit.
What do you mean?
I think it's an active defense mechanism. Like, we blame the economy or our bosses or our background because it protects our ego.
Oh, absolutely.
It protects us from that terrifying realization that we actually have agency. Because if my financial situation is my fault, well, then I have to do something about it.
That defense mechanism is a recognized cognitive bias. The ego vastly prefers comfortable misery over the terrifying prospect of taking actual responsibility.
Comfortable misery. Wow, that is a great phrase.
It's true, though. When you finally shed that instinct to blame, you create this psychological vacuum. You are suddenly forced to confront your actual, deeply held beliefs about success and capital.
And for most people, those underlying beliefs are fundamentally wired for scarcity, aren't they?
Exactly. And the text touches on these inherited money scripts we all have.
Right, I was just thinking about that. It goes way deeper than that basic money doesn't grow on trees lecture we all got as kids.
Where we can't afford that.
Yes, it's like we inherit this scarcity mindset, like an ugly family heirloom. And I see it a lot in the romanticization of the struggle, too.
Expand on that a bit.
Well, there is this pervasive cultural narrative that grinding endlessly and suffering financially somehow makes you morally superior.
Oh yeah, the noble underdog trope.
Exactly. If your entire identity is built around being the noble underdog, then sudden financial success isn't actually a victory to you.
It's a threat.
Right. It's an existential threat to your core identity.
You've really hit on the concept of cognitive dissonance there. Because the human brain is incredibly efficient at maintaining internal consistency.
It wants to prove itself right.
Always. So if your subconscious operating system views wealth as corruptive, or you secretly view rich people as inherently greedy, your brain is going to perceive any opportunity for advancement as a threat to your moral framework.
Wait, really? So you'll just block it out?
Worse, you will unknowingly sabotage yourself. You'll blow up a business deal or ignore a really clear investment opportunity or suddenly mismanage your budget for no apparent reason.
Just to get back to zero.
Exactly. Simply to return to the financial baseline where you feel morally safe.
That is wild. It's literally like trying to run modern software on a totally outdated, glitchy operating system.
That's the perfect analogy.
The hardware, like your work ethic, your raw intelligence, might be perfectly fine. You might be out there working 80 hours a week.
But if the OS is broken?
Right. If the background OS is coded for scarcity, the application is going to crash every single time you try to scale up.
So the question becomes, how do we fix it?
Yes. What is the actual mechanism for patching that OS? Because the text talks about visualization and affirmations, which, I'll be honest, again, sounds a bit fluffy to me.
A lot of people feel that way.
And couldn't visualization also lead to complacency? Like if my brain vividly imagines I've already succeeded, won't I just lose the drive to actually go do the hard work?
Well, that is a really common misunderstanding of how the neurological mechanism actually functions.
Okay, unpack that for me.
We aren't talking about daydreaming to trigger a cheap dopamine release so you feel satisfied doing nothing on your couch.
Right.
We are talking about programming the reticular activating system, the RAS.
The RAS. Okay, I've heard of this.
Yeah, so your brain is bombarded by millions of bits of sensory information every single second.
It's constantly overwhelmed.
Right. And to prevent you from literally going insane, the RAS filters out about 99% of it. It only lets through what it deems currently relevant or important to your survival.
So by repeatedly visualizing a specific outcome, you are essentially telling your RAS, hey, this is the new priority, stop filtering this out.
Precisely. Think about it like this. If you decide you want to buy a specific model of a red car.
Oh, I know this one. Suddenly you see that exact red car everywhere you go.
Exactly. The cars didn't just magically appear on the highway out of thin air. They were always there. Your RAS just stopped filtering them out.
That makes so much sense.
So when you systematically visualize opportunities for value creation, you are programming your RAS to spot the anomalies.
The things you were blind to before.
Right. The market gaps, the networking opportunities that your scarcity-wired brain was previously just completely ignoring. It doesn't replace the work, you see.
Right. It just highlights the path so your work is finally directed at the right targets.
Exactly.
Okay, that makes perfect sense to me. The RAS is scanning for the open doors, but seeing the door doesn't automatically walk you through it.
No, it definitely doesn't.
Which logically brings us to the execution phase. You've patched the OS, you are spotting the opportunities, but now you need the behavioral architecture to actually capitalize on them.
And the source material calls this the mastery of discipline.
Right. And honestly, speaking of good habits and disciplines, if you are enjoying this deep dive so far, making a habit of subscribing and turning on notifications is just a really great way to ensure you never miss out on new content.
It's a very simple discipline to start with.
Exactly. It takes 2 seconds, and it keeps your mindset sharp. But getting back to the text, this is where the romanticism of entrepreneurship usually dies, isn't it?
Oh, 100%. Because motivation is highly, highly volatile.
Yeah, it really is.
It is entirely dependent on your blood sugar, how much sleep you got last night, or just your current mood. Discipline, as defined by these sources, is the systemic removal of mood from the equation entirely.
I always tend to view motivation like a smartphone battery.
Oh, that's a good way to look at it.
Yeah, you wake up at 100% and it feels great. You're ready to conquer the world. But by 3 in the afternoon, after dealing with a frustrating client, a traffic jam, and, I don't know, a broken printer,
Yeah, running on fumes.
you're at 12%. And if your financial future relies on how you feel at 3 p.m. on a Tuesday, you are in serious trouble.
You really are.
The text outlines physical, financial, and emotional discipline. But honestly, trying to white knuckle your way through all three of those simultaneously, it sounds like a guaranteed recipe for burnout.
Well, trying to rely on raw willpower will always lead to burnout,
Mm-hmm.
which is why the transition from motivation to actual discipline requires environment design.
Environment design. Okay.
Yeah, behavioral psychology refers to this concept called reversion to the mean. Under stress, humans do not rise to the level of their goal.
They fall to the level of their systems.
Exactly. The sources highlight that high net worth individuals don't necessarily have superhuman willpower. That's a myth.
They just build environments where doing the right thing requires less friction than doing the wrong thing.
Yes, automating the discipline.
So, like, how does that apply to the financial side?
Well, financial discipline isn't about sitting down every single day and agonizing over whether to buy a $5 coffee. That causes decision fatigue.
Right. That's exhausting.
It's about automating your investments so the money leaves your account before you ever even see it. You pay yourself first, systemically.
The decision is made once, and the system executes it permanently.
Exactly. You don't have to be motivated to save if the system does it for you.
I love that. Let's dig into the emotional pillar of discipline, though, because I actually hypothesize that this is the linchpin of the entire structure.
It really is the hardest one to master.
Right, because when we look at massive financial blunders, like people panic selling their entire retirement portfolio during a temporary market dip, that is almost never a failure of financial literacy.
No, they usually know better logically.
It is a complete failure of emotional regulation.
And the neuroscience behind that is just fascinating. When the market dips and panic sets in, the amygdala, which is the fear center of your brain, essentially hijacks your prefrontal cortex.
And the prefrontal cortex is what handles logic and long-term planning, right?
Yes, so you literally lose access to your rational brain.
Yeah.
You physically cannot think long-term in that moment.
Wow.
So emotional discipline is the learned ability to widen the gap between a stimulus and your response. The sources argue that wealth is often simply the transfer of capital from the emotionally reactive to the emotionally disciplined.
That is a phenomenal way to frame it. The emotionally disciplined investor buys the assets that the emotionally reactive investor is panic selling at a huge discount.
Exactly.
So, okay, your internal OS is programmed for abundance, and your behavioral systems are protecting you from your own emotional volatility.
Right.
But the external environment doesn't remain static, does it? Markets evolve, industries get completely disrupted by AI, entire economic landscapes just shift overnight.
They do, faster than ever now.
So how do you prevent your carefully built systems from becoming obsolete?
Well, that requires the third component of the wealth consciousness architecture, which is the engine of continuous adaptation.
Okay.
The sources emphasize that formal education makes you a living, but self-education makes you a fortune.
That's a powerful distinction.
What we are really talking about here is the concept of asymmetric returns on knowledge.
Give me the mechanics of that. How exactly does knowledge provide an asymmetric return?
Think about the cost-to-benefit ratio of reading a dense, well-researched book by an absolute industry expert.
Okay, so the cost is maybe, what, $20 and 6 hours of my time?
Right. But the benefit is that you essentially download a framework
Yeah.
that took the author 20 years and probably millions of dollars in mistakes to figure out.
That's incredible when you frame it like that.
You absorb decades of trial and error in a single afternoon. The return on that investment is mathematically absurd.
It really is.
But, and this is the catch, it requires the humility to realize that your current level of expertise is constantly decaying in value.
It's the ultimate cheat code, really. You are buying other people's failures at a massive discount,
Exactly.
which ties perfectly into how the sources redefine failure itself. Because it seems like the traditional mindset views failure as a direct indictment of your identity.
Like, I failed, therefore I am a failure.
Exactly. But the wealth consciousness model treats failure the way a scientist treats a disproven hypothesis. It isn't personal at all, it's just data acquisition.
And that shift in framing changes literally everything.
How so?
If failure is a threat to your ego, you will only attempt things you know you can already win at,
Right, playing it safe.
which caps your growth immediately. But if failure is just a feedback loop, just the market telling you that your current hypothesis is flawed, You can iterate rapidly.
You just adjust and try again.
Right. The faster you can run that feedback loop without losing enthusiasm, the faster you discover the model that actually works.
Okay, let me throw a real-world wrench into this elegant feedback loop, though.
Bring it on.
Because the text heavily emphasizes the importance of your environment, specifically surrounding yourself with ambitious, growth-minded people.
Yes, very important.
We've all heard the phrase that you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with.
Classic.
But what if you are physically trapped in a deeply pessimistic environment?
That's scuff.
Let's say you work in a really toxic corporate culture, or you have a family structure that is entirely built on that scarcity mindset. You can't just evaporate and move to a monastery of billionaires, right?
No, you can't. It's a very pragmatic constraint that a lot of people face. And the solution really lies in establishing strict cognitive boundaries.
Okay, cognitive boundaries.
You might not be able to change your physical proximity to pessimistic people right away, but you have absolute control over your intellectual proximity.
You essentially have to build a firewall.
Mental firewall, yes. If your physical geographic circle is lacking, you have to aggressively curate an artificial environment.
So like the media you consume.
Exactly. The voices in your headphones, the audiobooks, the seminars, deep dive analyses like this one, they must become louder and more frequent than the pessimistic voices in the break room or the cubicle next to you.
I love that. You allow those curated mentors to shape your baseline reality.
Yes, and over time, your improved results will naturally pull you into new physical environments. You'll get a better job or start a business, but the intellectual shift has to happen first, often in total isolation.
So, synthesizing everything we've pulled from the sources today, true wealth consciousness is a highly deliberate mechanical synergy.
It's not magic.
No. It starts by auditing your subconscious operating system and programming your reticular activating system to stop filtering out the opportunities that are already around you.
Spot on.
Then you secure those opportunities not through sheer motivation, but by building systemic, friction-free environments of physical, financial, and emotional discipline.
Systems over willpower.
Always. And finally, you sustain that growth by treating failure as purely data and leveraging the asymmetric returns of continuous learning.
That synergy is really what makes it unbreakable. Having the right mindset without discipline just makes you a dreamer.
Right.
But having discipline without a growth mindset makes you an incredibly efficient robot stuck in the past. The architecture requires all three pillars to stand.
It is a profound shift in perspective. And hey, if you are listening to this and finding value in this kind of deep mechanical breakdown, take a second right now to hit subscribe and turn on your notifications.
Yes, build that intellectual environment.
Exactly. We are constantly digging into these frameworks, and curating your feed with high-level insights is exactly the kind of environmental design we were just talking about. It's a frictionless way to keep your intellectual proximity super sharp.
Absolutely. And to close out our analysis today, the source material actually poses a fascinating philosophical challenge.
Oh, lay it on me.
It says that success is not a destination you finally arrive at. It is a reality you attract by the person you become.
Wow.
Okay. Therefore, your current reality is simply a perfect reflection of your past habits. So if you take a ruthlessly honest look at the systems you have in place right now, your emotional regulation, your daily inputs, your reactions to failure, what kind of future are you naturally attracting today?
That is the ultimate mirror to hold up. Money talks, but wealth whispers in the quiet systems we build when no one else is watching.
Well said.
So what is the one structural change you will make tomorrow to alter the signal you are broadcasting to the market? Something to really think about. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We'll catch you on the next one.